versus Hooker. Going to do it a different format today. It's going to run over everybody's Bet MMA tips page, and then we're going to briefly just go into a couple of the main storylines from the week. Basically, all right, so as usual, I'm your host, John Stargary. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox. I'm with Luke, who's at SWR Betting, with Lags, at Lags_the Capper, Quinn at Orthodox1993, and C. Hansen, who is at C. Hansen10. All right, so I guess I will start with myself here. I had 4 plays. First of the night was Bilal. I picked him up plus 115 for 2 units. That hit, which was nice. So 2.3, pretty happy about it. Did anybody else play Bilal?
I was going to play him at dog money, but by the time I got the favorite money.
Yeah, I actually thought this was one of the few fights that was probably affected by the smaller cage. Like, I have a feeling in a big cage, Griffin probably doesn't have as much success just kind of sprinting him into the corner. But, ultimately he didn't wrestle as much as I expected, but Jordan Griffin's not a UFC-level fighter. The guy just is completely reliant on awkward finishes and forcing awkward finishes. So, yeah, not totally shocked. And, so next up I had Kyle Dawkins, which I had a unit on him. It was plus 245. This was a bit infuriating to me. Look, I viewed it as Allen about 60%, and I think that's still, kind of how I view it after this. Obviously, Docs was super competitive. I don't think Allen's made much improvement, if at all, since we first saw him come on the scene. That knee in the first round probably changed the fight, but I'm pretty sure Allen didn't even land a single takedown this fight. So, yeah, I don't regret it. Yeah, it's just frustrating to be on a plus 245 who looks almost even money and lose. And then speaking of which, I was on Hooker KO decision for a unit of plus 230, and then Hooker straight for a unit of plus 200. And this was, I don't know, we'll get into this a little later on because I know a bunch of people were on Poirier in this pod. But yeah, Hooker kind of did what I expected in the early going. I knew he slowed down against Felder. I didn't expect the cardio dump to be as severe as it wound up being. But I guess it was what it was. Obviously no issue with the decision. I thought the 10-8 in round 4 was a little bizarre. Hooker just had nothing left. Bottom line, he stayed on top the last minute of round 5. Maybe he wins. I talked to you guys after, and, my initial thoughts was, man, Hooker was definitely the right side. That was a great bet. But kind of in hindsight, after having a night to think about it, I don't think it was a bad bet. But at the same time, if Hooker is going to go – if you told me Dustin survives the blizzard of strikes he survived at end of round 2 coming in, that he had the durability to survive that, I wouldn't have been on Hooker here. The fact that Hooker did all that attritional striking and Poirier, he was clearly tired, but he still had enough to keep coming, kind of had my analysis being a little off. So even though it was a close fight, I'm not really sure there was a ton of value there. So, yeah, that is what I had. Next up, we're going to go over to Quinn here. And let me just pull that up on screen for us. All right, Quinn, you want to jump in? Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right. So Quinn had Pena by submission. You want to talk about that?
Not really. That was a frustrating fight. I think Pena just maybe he gassed. He was at the end of the fight. He was shooting takedowns without really setting him up. I thought he almost got that arm triangle in the second, but I didn't really take into consideration how much he's very into positions over going for subs. But I felt like if he would have passed from half guard, he would have finished that arm triangle there. I also don't think I really gave Worthy enough credit at all, pre-tape. I thought the striking was definitely closer than I thought it would be, and I didn't think in a million years he would sub him in the third round. I I think Pena definitely needs to be cut here. I mean, that's bad. Or like give him like I don't know who you could even give him after that. Like that's really bad. He really needs to take some time off here. So I don't really I don't not regret playing the vet. I kind of wish I would have got better odds, but that's all right.
All right, and then you also had 3 units on Poirier. Anything to take from that?
Yeah, I mean, the analysis was pretty correct. I mean, my whole thing was, can Poirier take the shots for the first couple of rounds? I was pretty much screaming at the TV during the second round. That was very that was stressful, man. That was stressful, the end there. I also looking back on it, like I like the line that I got. I wish I would have got a better line. Like he almost lost that third round going for those guillotines. Which was a pretty big red flag for me pre-tape. Like I never really liked that Poirier does that. And yeah, Hooker just gassed. Like he gassed the last fourth and the fifth. He really had nothing for Poirier, and I kind of expected that. I mean, Poirier puts on a pretty heavy pace, and he was doing a good job, like mixing his wrestling and working the body. So, yeah, it was a great fight though. Definitely like contender for fight of the year. I do think that the plus 200 was like if you got that on Hooker, like that's definitely not a bad bet. I mean, round 3 was very, very close. So glad I profited though. Gets me set for 251.
Yeah. All right. So that was what Quinn had tracked for the show. Next up, we are going to go over to Legs here. Legs, hold on. Let me just pull your stuff up for you. All right. Do you want to just take it away? Oh, this is not the right card. Wait, Lag, do you have an old tips page?
That's not the right tips page.
All right. Do you wanna just send it? Just message me.
I thought I sent it to you. Okay. Yeah, give me a second.
All right, guys, hold on one second. While I'm waiting, Lag, just message it to me in the just message me a link to it in on Twitter. I'll pull up C instead. All right, so we're gonna go over to C then.
I'm just gonna send in the group chat.
All right, C, take it away.
Yeah, I was pretty heavily tied to Kyle. I didn't think. I honestly didn't really think Brandon was going to be able to sub Kyle. And I played the over there. Probably should have played it for a little bit more. Kind of thought that if Allen was going to win, it was going to be from like some type of ground and pound. Didn't really think like a sub was like highly likely there. Yeah, I mean, I played like Bozer a little bit before, just like so I ended up having like 3.5 units on Kyle, but I thought Kyle, like going into it, I thought Allen was like probably like 55-45 there, so like plus 240. No regrets. Kind of think Kyle actually should have just kept it standing. He was tagging Allen on the feet. And it looked like he hurt him. And kind of just like his first instinct was to shoot for the takedown, which was pretty ill-advised. Because I do think he would have just probably like round 2, round 3. I mean, if he just constantly was tagging him on the feet, I think he was going to win, or at least knock him out, maybe get a knockdown. I mean, Allen, as most people know, like his wrestling is pretty shit. Didn't even land a takedown. Saw somebody tweet like to the bank, like Allen was like minus 250 to like land more takedowns or something, and he landed none. So yeah, so most of my night was tied to that. I had Hansen and Perry in a parlay. I kind of let some public perception change my mind on Perry, but yeah, I didn't think like, I didn't really think Gall could beat Perry, and like pretty much Gall's only win condition, at least what most people anticipated was like a sub, and honestly, Perry's probably the better grappler of the two. And then yeah, I mean, I took Hansen in that same parlay, and Hansen pretty much did what I thought. Better grappler. Sketchy first round, but picked it up afterwards. And then I think in the bottom one, I had like the over 2.5 in the Poirier fight. I should have just played all those fucking straight instead of combined. But yeah, I mean, I said like
came through, huh?
Yeah. Kyle's the difference from like fucking, I don't know, 10, 8 fucking unit swing. But yeah, like I said, I think I messaged in the group too, like over 2.5 in the DP fight just seemed like pretty silly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was a weird one in general. Like I saw a lot of people tipping Poirier KO, which like you can say what you want about Hooker, but the man can take an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage. Like we've seen it.
Yeah, for sure. They're both like pretty like honestly, Dustin's probably like a little bit more durable than I would have imagined.
Yeah, that's where my analysis fell apart, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of said like I think Dustin's like chinny in round 1, and then like he's fine afterwards. But you know, he weathered the early storm, turned it on late. Hooker survived an onslaught. 3, 4, and 5. So whatever, shitty card.
All right, so we will move on. Lags, did you send it to me?
Yeah, I sent it in the group chat.
Okay. So we will move on here. Okay, perfect. All right. So we'll go to Lags. All right. All right. Lags, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll start from the bottom. So probably a few hours right before the fight started, I didn't really see a lot of line movement with the Bozer Lins fight, but I was looking to target Bozer by decision, and I saw it get up to plus 180 in my book. So I was like, all right, I think this is a good shot. Both these guys are durable enough, and I think Bozer's going to outpoint him to a decision. But I was a little wrong there. I mean, I don't think anybody really was predicting a Bozer knockout there. I just didn't. Lins' durability is questionable, and I think he gets the pink slip after this fight. So I guess not much more to talk about that. I guess that regret there would be not playing Bozer at minus 110. I still saw value there. So yeah, I guess that would be the hindsight there. Then under 2.5 in the Pena Worthy. Not really going to say much about that. I think that was the right bet. It just happened slightly after the 2.5 minute mark, the 2.5 round mark. So not much to say there. Similar to what C said with the Poirier Hooker fight, I thought the 2.5 round total was kind of crazy, but I targeted a little plus money prop instead, just to fight to start round 4. That also got a little hairy, but yeah, I got that at plus 108. Not much to talk about there. Then I had Poirier in that fight as well. And then we'll talk on the Volante Green fight later, but I'm not gonna. I mean, I guess I regret that bet. I thought, his pressure was going to be a little bit more, but I mean, given this was pre weigh-in, so it is what it is. It was a little fun play. So, and then I profitable, so I'll take it.
Yeah, nice night. All right, we're gonna move on to my man Luke here. Luke had a tumultuous night. Up and down. All right, Luke. I'll start you off here. So Luke's first play of the night. God, I feel horrible for you. I feel horrible for you on a lot of these. It's by decision. Plus 150. You want to take that?
Yeah. So I guess I could make the hipster argument that that was a good bet. But out of the 4 plays I had, I'll definitely own up and say that was not a good bet solely based on my analysis, because my main reasoning for making the play was that I thought that Frey would be defensively responsible enough in terms of her grappling, in which to a large extent she was. I mean, we saw her on her back for a large majority of that second round. And then kind of really how that whole thing set up was just really from a takedown, and then she was able to slide to the back. So it necessarily wasn't like a mistake from the ground, at least originally. It was more so a submission off the takedown. But I really didn't see that. So, I mean, I think I was probably on my way to winning one there. But, I mean, we've seen Kay Hansen get multiple submissions in the 3rd round, and I just thought that that wasn't going to be the case here. So, Yeah, I'll
not a
definitely say
reliable
bad.
finish. Like
I mean, granted, that was a really slick transition that she did.
it was, but given how the first 10 and a half, 11 minutes that fight played out, like that didn't seem like particular.
Yeah, no, it didn't seem possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad bet, Luke.
So
I don't
It
know.
wasn't a bad bet.
yeah, I don't think so either. Luke's next play was Pena Worthy under 2.5, which is 1.5 unit play.
Yeah, I absolutely no regrets here. In terms of analysis, I guess I would say it was a little bit off. I guess I was someone who gave maybe a little bit more credence to Worthy, at least in terms of the feet. I thought he was going to be more competitive than some people were saying. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was out here saying that Worthy was going to go ahead and submit Luis Pena. I mean, I guess just in terms of like a violence bet perspective, I think we saw some really good striking exchanges in that first round. We saw Pena have a lot of back control in that second round, had multiple chances to get chokes in. And then, I believe that I just missed the under 2.5 by about roughly 20 seconds. So, no real regrets for me there.
To be honest with you, it actually made me somewhat question how good a submission grappler Pena actually is. Like, obviously he's a solid grappler, but he had the same thing with Garcia as well in his last fight, where he had the back for 13 minutes that fight and couldn't get him out of there. So I don't know. But I don't hate the bet for either you or Legs. Like you said, Worthy was landed solid early and late, and Pena had 5 minutes on his back and attempted about 6 submissions. Like, that's hard. That's kind of just variance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway, we move on to your next one. This was a nice bet. We have Volante Green starts round 2.
I guess once again, we'll maybe get into the whole Green Volante thing a little bit later. But in terms of the bet in of itself, I did think the whole narrative on Volante with him being out of shape was a little bit overblown, at least not in the sense that I didn't think he was out of shape. But if you look at John Volante over the course of his career, the guy's been extremely durable. I believe in 13 of his 15 UFC fights, they all started the second round. And then I knew Maurice Green's, as touched on a guy who's not a big finisher in general. At least he's not a big power guy. He's largely not a big submission threat. So at minus 195, I thought that was a nice little sneaky play there. So I was happy about that one.
Yeah, it was a nice play. And then last up, you had Hooker Poirier. You had Poirier for 3 units.
Yeah, so this one definitely played out a little bit closer than I thought it would. I definitely didn't think Dustin was going to run through him. I knew those early rounds were going to be a little shaky. Hooker's obviously a tough guy. But to Quinn's point, when he jumped guillotine, I believe in that third round, I was fully prepared to lose that bet. I'm like, oh no. Because, I mean, you got to give Hooker props. I mean, he obviously has good striking, but the dude actually has some pretty decent jits as well. So as soon, I know Poirier's done that before. But yeah, I guess when the announcers were going crazy, it's deep, it's deep, it's so tight, he's going to finish him. I was like, no fucking way he's finishing this. I knew Hooker was going to pop out and on top. So, but yeah, in terms of how it played out, I thought 48-47 was the correct scorecard. So from a handicapping perspective, playing him at minus 175, I believe it was. No, I guess not the greatest bet. I guess if we're talking about value, I think you definitely got some value on Hooker at plus 200 with how gritty he made that fight. But largely, to Quinn's point as well, I think my analysis was pretty spot on, but the fight just played a little closer than I thought it would.
Yeah, that's all right.
I actually wouldn't have hated it if you gave that third round to Hooker. Like watching it live, I was like, fuck, that guillotine lost in the round.
So yeah, it's weird. I thought that. Well, I didn't think that. I was watching it and I'm like, I scored that for Dustin, but I'm like, man, maybe I'm gonna get lucky here because judges seem to prioritize top control in the last minute, even though they shouldn't really. But let's be real, they do. It's terrible.
I was worried about it.
I was praying with I'm pretty sure if Hooker had stayed on top in round 5, he would have run the 5th round, even though it would have been totally undeserved. But yeah. So,
but yeah, even worst case scenario, end of 4th round, I was sweating a little bit. I'm like, this has got to be 2-2. No matter what happens round 3, this is probably 2-2 worst case scenario. and then Dustin had a great 5th round.
Yeah, it was a gutty performance. To be honest, you giving me the numbers before the fight, we're like Hooker's going to land 155 significant strikes and 4 takedowns. I'd be like, fuck yes, like this is it's an easy cash. But no, Dustin, like he's got some balls, man. So I think there's 3 or 4 fights I just want to like hit on briefly here that we can talk about. Worthy Pena, just kind of briefly want to go over this. I know there's a lot of people playing Worthy out there. Not talking shit, but like, look, obviously good bet. We talked about this bit in our group chat today. In retrospect, Worthy was the right side. I'm not saying I would have ever bet Pena. I wouldn't have, but I do sort of think like there's no possible way you could have known that Worthy was going to be able to hold up a Pena on his back or defend like 75% of the takedowns Pena attempted in that fight beforehand. Anybody disagree? Anything on that?
No.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think pretty much Worthy at that price, you pretty much have to expect him to like find a fit. Like, I would say find a finish. Probably that was his best path to victory, I think. And I mean, Pena gassing, I think in the 3rd round definitely had a huge factor there.
For sure.
I also think
I mean,
he made a bunch of improvements too. Worthy.
Yeah, Pena's not a great wrestler either. Like he's great on top.
Yeah.
Like we saw this with Trezano too, where like Trezano doesn't have the best takedown D, and Pena really struggled bad to get him down. But
we touched on that in the pod too. He was like I think 28% takedown defense, and he had like 1 takedown per fight. So
yeah,
I wasn't confident laying like minus 280 or whatever it was.
No.
That was crazy.
There were some big Pena bets out there though.
Yeah.
And real quick too, I think in terms of the submission at the end too, I actually think Pena did have a chance to get out of that. He didn't really provide much resistance. I mean, just in terms of like a guard sub, if you're just going to go like last ditch effort, you could at least try to flip over the top because Kama didn't actually close his guard there. And so maybe that doesn't always work, but if you do flip over the top, you can try to at least gain some space and then maybe flip over on your hips, and he could have potentially got out of that. So once again, man, I've never been high on this Luis Pena guy personally.
It's weird because he's got like the frame you would want from a talented fighter, and he can do weird things on the ground. But yeah, like he doesn't really have like much process to his game, like whatsoever. All right, now we're gonna move to a fun one. This is personally, in hindsight, like you guys know, I messaged you guys all Saturday morning, and I was like, man, I really want to play Rosa, but I just don't have the balls to do it. And that ended up being a pretty big regret. He subbed Woodson by Darce choke to finish that fight. C, I know you have some strong words here. You want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play anything on this. I honestly didn't even once they scratched the fight. I just the Nelson one. I didn't even really look into it. But yeah, I mean, in general, like, not a big fan of Woodson. I mean, I played Kyle Bochniak for like 6 units versus him, so I don't really know why I didn't take the stab on Rosa like 4-1. But like, you know, in my opinion, I mean, doesn't really have power, doesn't sit on his punches. I mean, can't win in the clinch, can't defend takedowns, doesn't check leg kicks, heavy on his lead leg. It's like, I don't know. He's constantly off balance, can't grapple. Like, okay, yeah, sure, he's long and, you know, he throws a decent amount of output, but like, you know, find someone in the, I know you, John, I think you said maybe he has like some top 15 upside, but I honestly don't even know that he has top 30 upside really when I look at it. Like Grant Dawson, for instance, is like 27th. Like Grant Dawson fucking chews him apart.
Yeah. Grant Dawson chews a lot of people apart though.
I mean, there's a whole list of guys who I'd take over Sean Woodson. If you pull up the list, there's at least 35 guys I'll take over Woodson. I mean, just honestly, I don't think he's really that good.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I'm a sucker for output, especially with a frame like that. Like, I kind of feel like most guys standing outside of like the real elites, he'd give like serious problems to.
Sure, but he can't. I mean, he can't grapple at all. Can't defend it. I mean, he's not like Max Holloway, who has crazy output.
What about all right?
Max Holloway
all right. See, I got the
long, but Max Holloway isn't going to get grinded against the fence.
That's
and he has jiu-jitsu, and he's got footwork.
What were you
I got the list for you. I got the list for you.
All right,
both-
30.
Did it.
All right, how about this? 30 and 31. Jourdain and Duho Choi.
Oh, Jourdain fucking beats his ass.
And then Duho Choi at
No,
31.
what's Feely ranked?
Feely is 20.
So
Yeah.
Feely beats him for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
21, Bryce Mitchell.
Bryce Mitchell. Oh my God, yeah, minus
Yeah, Mitchell destroys him.
100.
All right, we'll go to 30 at
Keep
least. 22, Nick Lentz.
He
Maybe
can win that fight.
Nick Lentz can wrestle.
Nate Landwehr.
No, definitely
No,
no.
but that's a shitty ranking because Nate Landler is higher than Grant Dawson. How is that possible?
Yeah, and then they have Elkins, Tahugov, and Crone Gracie.
Tahugov, that's just a really bad matchup for him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tahugov at 25.
Yeah, that's easy money.
$10,000 price.
Mike Grundy, I'd probably take Grundy over him too.
Yeah,
What about what about Giga at 39?
no.
Giga?
No.
Giga.
Fun fight.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I take Giga. Are you kidding?
No, stop. See, Jamal Edwards is piecing up. Giga. Come on.
Dude, come on. Have you seen Woodson's lead leg? Giga just chop it off.
I guess that.
I'll be honest. I agree with C here. If we could talk money on Giga, I think that would be a good side.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll give a little bit more credence to my guy Sean Woodson. I think the dude's got really solid striking, but I even said in like the original iteration of this matchup when he was facing Kyle Nelson, I thought Kyle Nelson was potentially a live dog there. I bet the under in that fight. But I said it going in, man, and I think this guy has shown just massive holes in his grappling on his Contender Series fight. He had his back taken for roughly 7 minutes. Bokniak had a chance to do it, but he's just not a good enough grappler. But I said, man, once he faces any guy who's got any sort of wrestling or grappling acumen, he's going to struggle. So now I'm not going to sit there and sound like a wise guy because I didn't play Arosa or anything, but I think Arosa has decent jiu-jitsu. I think he's a 10th planet guy too. So when he decides to use it, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't write off Mr. Woodson yet, but I think he's got some potential. But yeah, they're definitely going to have to give him some tailor-made matchups though.
I mean,
Yeah,
Rosa
I don't think he's like anywhere near the top 20. Like to be
I
fair.
guess to add real quick, Kyle Nelson's at 46.
Yeah, like I'm looking
So-
at this like Bektik is 21. Oh my God. Well, he's like another minus.
Oh well, I think we have different things. I have Beck at 17, but you're good. Either way, I still don't. Sadiq's at 15 on here for me. I mean,
Like I
don't
get
even think
what
he's.
people are saying about the volume, but like I mean, you can't be that bad at so many other aspects of this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Quinn?
That's a good point. I mean, Arosa did what he needed to do. Like he pressured him hard.
Yeah.
And then
Well, this was one of the key matchups.
that was the only chance, really.
Yeah, I
to,
mean to be fair, Rosa is also 6'1", so like they're similar in size, but I do think like anyone who could wrestle is gonna just. I mean, in the Contender Series fight, he was basically getting grappled fucked for the whole time until he landed versus a subpar wrestler. I mean, it's okay.
All right, so we'll move on. We touched on Alan Dawkins already. Fuck that fight. We'll move on to the Crochet Boss and John Volante. I actually played Volante untracked here. It's a bit frustrating. Legs, I'll let you start with this because I know you have some strong feelings.
Yeah, so I tweeted earlier that basically, like, just because you're trying to fade one fighter doesn't mean that you should automatically back the other fighter if there's no substantial reasons. I mean, we talked about this a lot. There's no reason Maurice Green should be minus 250, and I think he closed near minus 280 against anybody in the heavyweight division, honestly. No. Against maybe we talked about maybe a Junior Albini rematch. Other than that,
even that's
like, I don't even know. Because he hurt. I mean, he had him hurt.
Yeah, so, I agree. I mean, that's sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's one of these things that you hear people all the time say, like, and I mean, I'm guilty of saying it as well, but like being like, oh, they're fighting, we're gonna fade them, and like, see, you called Matthew Crowell a bum for catching Green ITD.
Oh,
But
I mean,
the truth
Gian
is,
was I was pretty surprised with those scorecards. I mean, I thought Gian was well on his way to winning that fight before that.
I thought it was
before he
definitely
gave up.
close.
I mean, he
going
literally, that's
season.
why he gave up. That you're not going to land that submission at any sort of a high rate or even a middle rate at all. That's like that was just pathetic, honestly.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, can we touch on that real quick? How in the living fuck did 3 judges have it 20-18 going into the third round?
That was a horrible.
That
I
was
don't know.
atrocious.
I
No
thought,
thought it was
way.
1 going to 3.
I thought legit there was a case for 2018 Volante. Like I'm not like he hurt him in round 2. He hurt him and he was walking forward the entire time and landing the only one landing like real strikes for the entirety of round 2. Like that's
Green doesn't move his head and he doesn't have the footwork at all.
it's just like one of those things where I feel like so often I lose bets where I have the guy that's landing way more volume and he's not landing the hard strikes, and now I'm on the other side where the guy's landing the hard fucking strikes and like he's down 2-0 because he's getting out volume. Like, are you fucking
The
kidding
value
me?
was 100% on Volante, and if you're gonna argue a case for Green, like at all, for him being that big of a favorite, also like congratulating yourself on getting that sub. I mean, no.
Yeah, I guess
I didn't say
Real quick too. I made a post on Twitter, like I think it was like maybe like 5 or 6 hours before the event, because I just kept seeing, or maybe it was even before that, but I just kept seeing all this green inside the distance or green straight or whatever. And my thing was like, obviously I personally disagreed with the bet like pre-fight, but my big thing in that making that post was I was like, can someone just like rationalize not necessarily the bet, but the bet at that number? And I got absolutely zero response from one person who bet him of why they bet him at that number. Still, nobody can, even how it played out post-fight, nobody can justify betting him at -230.
Yeah.
So
To be
is
fair,
that
my
where-
comment on
30K?
Twitter was that Squares got bailed out. Not you directly, but yes, if you took Green, you were Square.
Yeah.
And obviously I had already seen Allen Squares get rewarded, so to see Green Squares get rewarded, it was,
Let me tell you guys, I had Volante untracked, I had Hooker, and I had Dawkins consecutively. Like that was
we talked about that. It's
just
crazy.
knife after knife after knife in the kidneys.
I guess I'll just like real quick. I think the only value play probably on this fight is probably the over 1.5.
Yeah.
Or like what Luke had. The fight starts round 2. I think that was probably the only play. And I guess Green is still fake going forward. I don't really think this didn't really show much. I think people were saying this was just like a front choke that Green had. I mean, I think this is more just Volante's fat ass gas and on top of him.
He literally
the full mount was open. I rewatched the sequence today. Full mount was literally open. He just tapped.
He was too tired. So,
It was like,
and I guess
so
real quick,
give him Tanner
Green's probably gonna get Tanner Bozer. I was just gonna say that, and Bozer's probably gonna be a wide line, but that's probably gonna be the right side for sure.
Will he be? Will he be a wide line? Like, do we think?
If it's not like we talked about, if it's not at least -300, I think that's insane. So
well, everybody seems to think Green is the second coming of Christ, so maybe we do get a crazy line and get Bozer at a good number.
Hold on. Let's go one by one here. What were you saying, C?
Just how Green was reacting from like the kicks from Volante, like Bowser is gonna kill him.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought Green was
reactions
gonna,
are huge.
Yeah, his reaction was like he was gonna quit. I don't know why he didn't just chop the leg.
And then Luke, what were you gonna say?
Well, no, I was just saying. I mean, based on all the confidence that people had here in Green, apparently, I think we might actually get a decent line on Bozer, assuming that fight comes to fruition. But yeah, I mean, to Lags' point too, once again, this fight told me absolutely nothing about Maurice Green. He's still a tall guy who does not know how to work behind his jab, didn't check kicks. He's not a big power guy. And in terms of that submission, real quick too, even in the post-fight presser, Green said he didn't even fully have that locked in. He pretty much largely attributed that to also being Volante gassing without him explicitly saying it to not shit on his own submission. But like he pretty much even indirectly said that he didn't even have it fully locked in. So once again, I've seen zero evolution from Maurice Green outside of the fact that the guy slimmed down and seems like he's in better shape. But from a technical perspective, I've seen no evolution.
Playing that main submission prop
Plus 1,000.
because it was plus 1,000. Like that's the reason why.
Wait, what? Oh,
Like,
no. I thought you were saying, what was it? Oh, why they were playing it?
No,
I
why
don't
were
know.
people playing it? Like, what was the narrative
know.
behind playing
He actually
And
does
it's wide
have a
prop,
full
like-
submission.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
but like, has he ever
Oh, yeah.
like? I don't know.
I don't know. I saw a lot of sharps on Green, and I think it's kind of crazy that they were laying minus 250. So
Well,
I guess
that's
that's the last thing I'll say on that.
Like, everybody was like Volante, like fat Volante. It's like, how many fat guys at heavyweight have we seen be good? Derek Lewis has been fat his whole
Yeah.
career. Roy Nelson, like
Right.
Ivanov, like all of these guys, like very.
Yeah, what did the line move from the weigh-in? Like 30 cents, 40 cents?
Yeah, so it was like minus 240, 250 before, and then minus 280, I think, closed.
Yeah, like I picked up Volante on fight night at like plus 225. I think it was around that, which is
Like all that just because of like a weigh-in. I mean,
yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
Narrative
yeah,
move fights.
I guess what Matt said is kind of fair. Taking a minus 230 heavyweight instead of the distance, minus 120 seemed decent. Regret the bet, got lucky for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people saw. They didn't want to lay the juice, but just took the inside the distance because they thought, Volante's trash and he could easily be finished. So
the bet was probably about accurate number wise, to be honest. Like I don't think
Yeah.
there was value, but like minus 120 seems like about right in hindsight.
This might be a hot take for me, but I have been burned so many times on playing unders for heavyweight fights. Like so many times.
I
Like,
agree.
It's not something that I rush out of the gate to do anymore, really. I think it's an overblown narrative
got
when people
weird.
play. I've been burnt like 4 times on it.
I actually had, I believe I had the over plus 300 on, and what you said just made me think of this. Greg Hardy and Alan Crowder that got stopped when Hardy kneed Crowder in the head about 10 seconds from cashing that over, which was, yeah, heavyweight over-unders are a goddamn mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll move on. We go to anybody else have anything on this? All right, Mike Perry, Mickey Gall. See, I know you played this on track. I personally think this was probably the best value on the card in hindsight. Anything here?
yeah, I mean, I said before, I was just like, if you're going to take like a big favorite, like Perry's your best bet. I mean, Gall literally, I said it before, he doesn't really have any advantages. Like, yeah, I guess in the first round he was like landing okay, but I don't know. He doesn't. He's not like Perry's like pretty underrated grappler just in general. I know you said that about Cowboy. Like, yeah, that probably just like changed the narrative of the guy. But yeah, Gall just like really doesn't have. I don't know. Gall's just really not UFC caliber. Just in general. Perry is what he is. He's like not like terrible. He's not great. Probably like fringe top 20-ish type guy. I'd like to see Bilal Muhammad versus Mike Perry. I'm down for that. I think that's
It's a good
a
fight.
fun scrap.
Yeah,
I feel like Bilal's too high up in the rank. I feel like he's too high right now to get a Mike Perry matchup.
Dana likes Perry, so they might.
I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just
Dana
a weird
likes
matchup for me.
I mean, Perry, like he's the kind of guy that could rip off 3 wins in a row and maybe find his way to like a number 10 slot at some point in his career. But yeah, I mean, he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
He's just not developing. I remember I heard somebody say Gall is progressing with Perry, and I listened and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Get away from it. It's like that's probably true, except when you're going from like 70 in the world, you've progressed to 65, and now you're facing maybe number 20. It doesn't really matter that much. Like it's like the level of progression is not really meaningful.
I mean, this was another
Perry's-
where like
Perry's
the
probably
narrative.
regressed from the Luque fight.
What was that?
Perry's probably regressed from the Luque fight. Like that's probably the best he's looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Quinn?
I mean, like, I was just shocked by like some of the like. There's a lot of people on Gall, and like I couldn't find a single narrative the entire week that like was justifying the Gall play like at all. And
Same as the green play.
yeah, and it's just
They were similar. There were
it's
similar
like
narratives. I think.
just because Perry's a madman and he's wild and has no discipline doesn't mean that you should run out of the gate and go bet Mickey Gall, who we touched on the pod. Just like C said, he had really no advantages in this fight at all. He's not UFC caliber. Like, just because Perry is a psycho doesn't mean that you should just go lay your money down on Mickey Gall. Like that's just not something that you should do, in my opinion. It's just lighting your money on fire, and no one could give a strong narrative as to why they were going to be betting Gall versus Perry. So it's just, I don't know.
Diego Sanchez has won a fight in 2020, so he's a little crazier than Perry. So yeah, we move on, and I mean that's really we have Poirier Hooker. I don't know if anybody want to touch that any further. Like I said,
I guess we could touch on like future matchups.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so Glags, you want to take us away with this? Like, you go first. What do you think for each?
I know a lot of people were saying that maybe a Dustin Conor 2 fight would be a good matchup. I don't really see that narrative. I don't see Conor taking that fight, and I think I've seen a similar result. I see Conor getting a pretty early knockout, but
yeah, Conor finished.
I mean, that's my take. I mean, I know Tony was being tossed around. I think that would be a good fight.
Yeah. Tony would be a good fight. Him versus Charles.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. I know people were throwing around Tony Oliveira for his return fight, and I like that matchup a lot, but I don't know if he's gonna get that.
Bronx called out Poirier.
I think that's the point to make. That's a
good fight.
Yeah, Charles better hop his ass on the treadmill, because that thing gets outside of 2 rounds, he's fucked.
Yeah, except Dustin gives his back when he gets taken down, and
Dustin thinks he's
such a good fight.
Dustin's
that's a good fight. I hope. Yeah.
Like, I like Dustin, and it seems like I feel like we're kind of I'll give my thoughts when it's my turn. Quinn, you want to
go? What?
Like, do you potential matchups for Poirier? Any takeaways?
I love Poirier Oliveira. I think that's a great fight. I don't really know how many fights Dustin has left. I mean, he's gone through so many wars. Yeah. I think he fights 2 more times, maybe. Like, I think should be Oliveira and Tony, maybe his last 2 fights. Like,
Matt,
as long as Khabib
sorry, Quinn. Quinn. Matt's in the chat. Hooker and Oliveira is not a bad matchup, I guess. But I mean, he's going to be out for so long that you're not going to be able to schedule that. So
yeah.
I'm not a big fan.
He has the throne. I mean, I don't really see Dustin getting a title shot, and and he's talked about like wanting to like retire like before his brain goes to mush. So I don't really see a 170 move for him unless it's a pretty big fight.
That would be a terrible decision.
Yeah.
That's. See, what about you? Or sorry, Quinn. Do you have more thoughts? Sorry.
Not really. I'm good.
See, what about you?
Yeah, who Dustin fights next? I mean, yeah, I think there's only like 3 options. He's fighting Tony McGregor, or he's fighting the winner of Khabib and Gaethje if Conor's done. Charles Oliveira. Honestly, I think Hooker beats Oliveira. I'd play Hooker there. Oliveira should probably like fight Felder again, maybe. I think Felder probably beats him again, but that's just me. I don't know. I think Dustin's probably got like 2 to 3 fights left max. I mean, he said he like probably isn't even going to fight the rest of this year. So I think Dustin's time is probably coming to an end here shortly. But yeah, I'd rather see like Dustin versus Gaethje than I would Dustin versus Conor.
I think that would be a good fight.
Yeah.
I think I guess if Justin beats Khabib, which I mean would be kind of crazy, but if that happens, I think a rematch with him and Poirier, and then if Poirier loses that, ended on that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Probably a good way to end his career.
Luke, how about you?
Yeah. Even with that Oliveira matchup, even with him calling out, I don't think Poirier takes that. That's not necessarily to say that it's like a nightmare matchup for Dustin. Obviously, Oliveira presents a lot of problems in that, but I would still probably favor Dustin there, because I think Charles is still really hittable, and I don't know about Charles's durability over the course of 5 minutes, potentially if it goes there. But yeah, I mean, we've seen Poirier give his back and whatnot before too. So I think, yeah, that's definitely an interesting matchup, but I highly doubt Poirier takes that. He'd probably want something bigger with one of the bigger guys. So
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And then, like, I guess for me, like, I agree, see that that's probably the move is going to be either Tony or the Gage and Khabib winner, but or Gage, not Khabib, I guess. There's no way they're running that back. But what I'd actually kind of like to see them actually do is Nate and Poirier. I don't know that it'll ever happen, but I wanted it to happen the first time. I think Dustin probably beats him up pretty bad, to be honest.
Nate?
But yeah.
Oh.
That's a fight that would be fun.
That is a fun fight.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Poirier in this fight, he got Hooker landed like 65% of attempted strikes. Like that's for Poirier, a guy who's been usually a pretty slick striker. Like that's shows like, he's got balls, he's got cardio, and he can hit, but like that shows some serious like decline to me. It's like, so I kind of agree with what Quinn said. I think his time at the top is kind of slowly fading. He'll probably get one of the elite guys, but I'd much rather see him in like fun fights, like another Pettis fight or a Nate fight, and him kind of do the cowboy thing for a couple years, than watch him get. Well, I mean, I think he'd probably beat Ferguson. Oh, that'd be a great fight. But
He would beat Ferguson.
yeah, but my point being more is that like if he keeps fighting elite guys, the guys at the top right now, he's going to take serious damage in his next couple of fights. Like I think that's kind of unavoidable. And he seems like a good dude, and I guess he he cashed about $400,000 for this weekend. So I mean,
Yeah, and he donates all his stuff to charity too. So
yeah,
he's a great guy all around.
Yeah,
So
he's awesome.
I wouldn't mind him just taking like kind of slotting into like the gatekeeper role and just taking on like the new Hungry Wolves and just like putting a few in their place like Cowboy does, and maybe take the occasional L. But I know that's not what he has in mind.
Not yet. Not even yet. Maybe like a couple of years if he's just
Yeah.
stays around. But I don't think he's going to want to stay around. I think he's going to take a couple fights and just leave.
He's probably making one more run, and if he beats someone like Tony, he'll get his title shot again, and then that's a wrap. Unless he beats Gagey again, but I have a feeling he won't. Anyway, so that's it for the night, folks. We'll be back. So we'll be back next Wednesday breaking down UFC 251. Joe's going to join us again. That'll be a lot of fun. Then obviously we have 3 cards that week, so we're going to build the recaps into the other shows. We'll do the Tuesday before the Wednesday night show, and the Thursday to break down the following Saturday card. A lot of good fights coming up. Luke and I are going to talk offline, but we may do on Wednesday night an Invicta breakdown, just kind of go over the main cards that have lines. But yeah, so stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of fights coming in. I hope everybody did well this weekend, and we will see you all soon. Take it easy, guys.